The changes that are coming in 172. It's quite a lot of changes, and also a small change that's a big update in terms of World Update 10 that allows you to have resizable maps, which will mean that you have to install the whole tool again. The server is obviously new, but obviously the toolbar app will be new as well, as the iframe is resized. A couple of things. This FSS issue that's been picked up, bit of a problem with that. It looks like VATSIM in the US see an FSS as a fixed service flight station, on the ground, whilst it's seen as something else, and so therefore the controller type 1 is being started to be used, and I've had to start coding for it. I was kind of ignoring it, so FSS has been fixed, and the name is being fixed as well because there was a problem there. There was an issue with reverse lookups, got pointed out. I've redone the table now, so that fixed. Online control logic being fixed a bit faster. Font size in the bottom, I'll show some of these. Reload. Important stuff, pop-ups for incoming weather. So you used to have weather come in, you have to click on it, it pops up. Now it pops up automatically. Better version control, some internal stuff going on. I've removed certain items from the menu because they were kind of debugs. Changed the filter field because we needed more room at the bottom to demonstrate some of that. This is internal, this show deleted stations. So you don't see deleted stations showing up in the online unless you specifically set it in the config. Weather icon from messaging no longer needed. The fallback refresh period is now 0, so you don't need to have a refresh because the refresh happens in the background every 45 seconds. You can still do a sync when you need to. The background refresh set to 45, so I mentioned this in a message. One of the questions is to make it quicker. I mentioned the iframe, unlimited menu, so I've removed unlimited view, seeing the whole world. There are performance issues if you start seeing that, especially during an event. So one of the things is you can go to messaging and type .u and still set it. So, and this thing where some of the Australian approaches for using 2 characters, and I've now fixed that so it should return the right name. So looking at the app itself, and running across, I mentioned about sync. There's not a lot in the map to see visually, although there's a lot of stuff going on in terms of updates. So that stuff is appearing and disappearing in real time, and a lot of testing on that. Coming out of the map now, you notice it actually spreads right across, although you obviously didn't see that in the size of the screen. Mention messaging, got rid of the weather message. A nice little tool which will come when we've got outbound messaging stable is that it actually goes and finds out where you are. Now I'm actually moving through the air at the moment, but if I was on the ground it would pick up that airport. And I've used that with London Control and Southend in real life, and it works well. I mentioned before there are some dot commands. I don't really want to use them, but if you want to go to unlimited, notice it's set to 1,000. If you set that now, it sets it to unlimited because I've removed unlimited from the menu here. I'll go back and reset that actually back to 1,000 because it's just better for performance. Weather, these two now work obviously well. One of the most important things that you'll notice is that now the weather will come in at the bottom. It also says it's requested, and once it arrives, it will appear in a pop-up. And if you get rid of that pop-up, it's still down here to click on, so you can still go back to your weather if you need to. Similarly with airport weather, if I put in here Echo Hotel Alpha Mike for Amsterdam, request it, it'll actually say it's requested, it's a sync message, and that'll pop up on there. So you'll notice it appeared at the bottom here. Nothing else really, as I mentioned. I've tidied up the config and removed this, thinking about removing experimental font and making that a dot command under messaging. I don't know how much it'd be interested to get people's feedback as to whether they're using that or not. I've removed some stuff. I've also put the version control in there. Notice the database was revised, got some more updated data, and obviously it tells you the latest release, so if you need to know what the release is, and obviously tell you what my meta key is. Obviously donations, still welcome your donations as we go. Not a lot happened in this space at all. These are obviously updated in real time. You've noticed that these offline messages are coming in. So there's a setting in config to turn that on and off. And if you want to have silence on your updates, you could obviously turn that, and then it will just flash on here. So it depends what you're doing, and it tells you that that's silent. Across the bottom, notice when there's no 0, this update stays undone. You notice this is unchanged, but filter has now changed. If you notice, once we put the controller name in there and you roll over, it'll tell you the filter that's being applied. So if we put in Echo, Golf, Kilo, and you'll notice that that's set. When you clear it, obviously clears that down and clears that, so there's no filter. These are now bigger. These are 2 dummy sets because I'm offline at the moment. But one of the important things here is that if you do have issues, you'll notice that the messages are now popped up. So if you've suppressed system messages, you will still get errors. So again, if you tried to change a frequency and there'd been a SIM connect error, you will actually get that back, and you can restart the server if you feel it needs to be done. You can do that from within the VR environment if you wanted to. Another important factor here, and I'll do it off screen at the moment, is that when I reset the server, it will actually reset without any intervention. It'll reset the UI, and I know I'm not unsure, but that's popular. There's a reason for that is it just keeps the sync in terms of the cache and what's been updated. Now, one of the implications is it will lose your list of pin stations, I'm afraid, but obviously you know that you're going to reset. You're not going to reset server that often. Across the bottom here, not a lot going on really. We know about pin stations, system message suppress. That suppresses your notifications. Now, I mentioned before the thing where Gatwick had been shown to a controller within the 45 seconds. So if you really do need an update, you can press the green button. You notice that's taking a bit of time. And the reason is obviously it has to run through all the controllers that were there and are now there twice effectively to get to a comparison. And so therefore it has to process that. And obviously you would have that notification on. And then there's delete messages. Quite a lot of stuff going on under the scenes in terms of version control and keeping the versions updated, etc. I've basically also built a tool which allows me to go and get the authoritative sources and update the database, and hence why you're able to see a database update seamlessly happening in the background. So that should sort of fix some of the issues you have with new controllers appearing. Hoping that this is obviously going to be the sort of final one. As I say, we're doing outbound messaging at the moment. We're possibly going to change the way we do it. We're currently using sockets. We might use files. There seems to be some sort of performance issue or timing issue going on with lots of sockets polling and things. So we're looking into that at the moment, although I used it today and it was quite stable. Craig's done a great job. We're not going to rush that one through. We can get that one right. I mean, outbound messaging is useful, but it's not the most essential. Obviously, inbound messaging is, and we're obviously quite happy with the way that works. So thanks again for all your support. And if you could all have a go at this at some point, and then we can push this out as a proper release. Thank you.